If you want to learn more about the topics of today's episode, visit the podcast website at naturesecretservice.com. Thanks for listening. Okay, everybody, listen up. Here we go. This is Nature's Secret Service, the podcast that puts you in the room with the men and women of wildlife law enforcement. I'm Ed Newcomer, your host, and today we're in Wyoming, and I'm with a guest I've been looking forward to talking to for a long time, retired U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Special Agent Tim Eicher. Tim, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
That's good to see you, Ed.
It's definitely good to see you.
Yeah, we kind of look the same, but we're a little grayer.
We are. Yes, the last time I saw Tim was at one of our annual in-services shortly before he retired in 2010. Yeah. And we were both a little bit younger back then.
Yeah, I didn't have any hair back then, but it's grayer now.
It's grayer.
What's there?
We do have our mustaches in common today,
yes.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
So, Tim, I want to have you tell me a little bit about your background as a wildlife law enforcement officer. But first, I want to ask you about something. I remember when I was working in Los Angeles, for some reason, I had to call your office, and I got the voicemail, and it said, "You've reached the Lawman." And I remember I laughed out loud because it was unusual to hear that on a special agent's voicemail, but I absolutely loved it because it said a lot about you and who you were. And where did that come from, the Lawman?
Well, when the wolf case that we're going to talk about took place, there was a lot of press, a lot of media, and Outside Magazine ended up doing a big article. And they actually had a professional photographer come up. And we went out north of town here, and they took a picture of me with my cowboy hat and my neckerchief, blowing in the breeze and all that. And the Game and Fish, a couple of my buddies started calling me the Lawman.
I love it.
And from there, it became a legend.
Yes.
Because there were many more cases after that, and I embraced it.
I don't blame you because, honestly, what a great nickname to have. And it says a lot about how you approach the job.
Yes.
I had a nickname in Los Angeles, too. My colleagues called me Ed the Fed, which doesn't have quite the gravitas that the Lawman does.
But it rhymes.
It rolls off the tongue pretty nicely.
Yeah.
So I actually love it because it reminds me of the 1950s Western, The Lawman, which, of course, was about a hero. So, Lawman, tell me a little bit about your background, how you ended up getting into wildlife law enforcement.
Yeah, sure. Now, I'll try and be brief, because I hate it when you ask people, what time is it? And you end up hearing how to make a watch. All right. So here we go.
I appreciate it. But we want to hear. So.
Yeah, because there are some strings that are going to come together when we start talking about the wolf case.
Okay.
I grew up in Michigan and ended up going to college at Michigan Tech up in the Upper Peninsula. It's in Houghton, Michigan. It's a little sliver that sits up into Lake Superior. I started there in 1971 and graduated in 1976 with a degree in forestry and a major in wildlife management.
Okay.
The folks from there will understand the weather. My freshman year, there was 300 and some inches of snow. Didn't see the sun for 6 weeks. So 76 rolls around and it's like, what am I going to do next? Am I going to go to work? Well, I ended up being a pretty good student at the end, and I applied to graduate school and was accepted at the University of Wisconsin to do a study on beaver with the game department, or New Mexico State University and work on mule deer. And I said, I want to go someplace different, see the desert, see the mountains. And so off to New Mexico I went.
Nice.
I worked and went to school those 2 years. And in 1978, when I graduated with my master's, I decided I wanted to be a game warden. I ended up getting hired as a game warden with the game department.
Okay, for New Mexico.
For New Mexico.
Big change.
So, 1983 to 1988, my duty station was the Jemez Mountains.
Okay.
The Jemez Mountains sit up in sort of northwest Wyoming.
Or New Mexico, right?
Yeah, New Mexico, yeah. Duh.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. Los Alamos sits on the east side.
Okay.
That's kind of relevant today with some of the recent movies that have been out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the bomb research was done during World War II.
Oh, exactly. And when I was a game warden, we actually went down and helped with oryx hunts down on the missile range. I've actually been to the Trinity site.
No kidding.
Yeah. So in 1988, my daughter is in elementary school at the school south of Jemez Springs.
Okay.
We're living at the Seven Springs Fish Hatchery at 8,000 feet.
Right.
Because it's free and I can park my double-wide trailer there.
Right.
13-mile drive to the bus stop, which is at La Cueva. This is going to become important.
Okay.
La Cueva is just a little wide spot in the road, maybe 150 people, with a convenience store and a liquor store and a little motel with a couple rooms.
Okay.
My daughter qualifies for the reduced lunch program at the school because I'm not making any money.
You're not getting rich as a game warden.
No, I got $500 in the bank.
We've all been there, Tim.
But I love it.
Right.
You know, I love it. But the opportunity comes up to put into the Fish and Wildlife Service. And so I told my wife, I'm going to put in. And I said, no matter where they send us, because this is the feds now.
Right. You sign a mobility agreement.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and I'm living at 8,000 feet in the mountains. If they send us to New York or whatever, we're going to give it 3 years.
Okay.
And then we'll make a decision.
And, you know, the thing is, in the Fish and Wildlife Service, particularly around that time and during my career, when you were a new agent, there was a pretty good shot that you were going to go to New York, Miami, LA, San Francisco.
Yes.
Because those are hard duty stations to fill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we had a big class, one of the biggest classes ever. There was like 25 people in it. So August of 88, I get my walking papers. San Francisco.
I knew it. I knew it.
I couldn't afford to live in San Francisco. Yeah. So I found in Suisun City, which is halfway between Sacramento and San Francisco, Fairfield, I think, is the big town. Or Travis Air Force Base. I rented a house in 88, unfurnished, for $750 a month.
Wow.
At the same time, they had hired Ken McLeod.
Yes, and a very famous agent in the service.
Ken, wonderful guy. His wife, Rose, who just passed away.
Just passed away.
Yeah. Ken was a wildlife inspector, got hired. And they'd hired some other wildlife inspectors.
To be agents.
To be agents, but they moved them from where they were at.
Right.
And so they were going to make Ken the agent in San Francisco where he was stationed, but they said this is going to upset the other inspectors.
Right.
So they had him go to Sacramento. We would pass each other on the highway.
On the way to work.
He's going to Sacramento and I'm going to San Francisco.
Oh, classic.
We did that for 2 months and then said Scotty Pearson was the supervisor in Sacramento. Hey, Scotty, we won't tell anybody. He says, okay, Ken, you stay in San Francisco. Tim, you come to Sacramento.
There you go.
Because the commute then was, you know, you weren't in the, everybody was going the other way. So the commute was quick.
Right.
So I'm sitting there for, about 2 years. In that first winter, we had money then, a little bit more money.
Yeah.
The Alaska guys would come down in the winter and work the waterfowl season.
Yeah. And that, you know, to explain that, a lot of times U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, of course, has primary jurisdiction over waterfowl.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not uncommon for agents from other districts to travel to areas where there are a lot of waterfowl, like Northern California, to help with waterfowl enforcement, just so listeners understand why Alaska agents would be coming down to California.
Yeah, from Los Banos clear up to San Joaquin to the Sacramento River Valley.
Yeah.
And we were working the wealthy duck clubs.
Yep.
I mean, there was a duck club there that cost $1 million to join.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a big deal. So John Mendoza was of course, sort of my training agent. And he put me with Al Crane, who was the supervisor out of Fairbanks. And so we spent some time together, and I think I impressed Al, but I had a background from New Mexico and horses and stuff like that. And so he had me up in March of '89 to fly me around Alaska and show it to me. I was under the Washington ceiling, so they had money for my travel.
Right.
I didn't have a permanent home yet. I had to find one.
Right. Washington ceiling means your first duty station's kind of a temporary thing, and you got to go find a home in about a year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So he's trying to recruit you to go to Alaska.
Yeah. So we fly around, and we get back to the airport in Fairbanks, and I've got tears going down my eyes because I got to go back to California.
Yep. Sacramento.
And he tells me, get your pilot's license, and I can get you, but I gotta know you can fly.
Interesting.
So I went back home and hung a picture of Alaska on the wall. And I had got my retirement contributions out of New Mexico, so we had money, and I spent half of that getting a pilot's license. I might also add March '89, when I left and went back, the pilot flew over the Exxon Valdez, sitting on the rocks, spilling oil.
Oh my gosh. That's a motivator, because that destroyed a lot of wildlife.
Yeah. And long story short, February of '90, I'm up in Fairbanks as the agent, as a pilot, flying airplanes. And spent till '94 up there chasing bad guys around Alaska. So Terry Gross was the supervisor in Denver. And Terry is a legend.
Oh, yeah.
Just a legend. He, through his contacts with some congressmen there, or whatever, in Colorado, gets him to earmark money to open 3 duty stations in the Denver region.
Okay.
The Denver region is Colorado, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, North, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas.
Right.
The 3 duty stations he opens is Rapid City, Cedar City, Utah, and those were sort of contaminant money stuff for mines and things, and then Cody, Wyoming.
Okay.
And I knew Terry, and I kind of had the inside that if I wanted that was for me.
Interesting. Good.
The
the Cody position.
So I put in for it, and that's how I ended up in Cody in August of '94.
Okay.
We are now connected to the wolf case.
Yes, we are, in a big way, because as we know from previous episodes for this season, wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone in '95, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so explain that a little bit. So first of all, for anybody who doesn't understand a map of the western United States, where's Cody, Wyoming in relation to Yellowstone National Park?
Cody, Wyoming is by the road 50 miles from the east entrance of Yellowstone Park. Closer if you're straight line, but it's considered one of the gateway communities to Yellowstone National Park.
Right.
And it's the east side.
So as an agent with the Fish and Wildlife Service in Cody, Wyoming in 1994, you arrive, I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, probably one of the first things you hear about or talk about is the upcoming wolf reintroduction in Yellowstone.
A little bit. What's interesting about this is there's never been a duty station. I show up here, there's no office.
Oh, we had not had an agent in Cody before that.
There's a pickup. That's it.
That's it. Okay.
My first 2 months, we're living in a single wide trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought this house, and we move in October of 94.
I got it. Okay.
And we're looking for office space.
Yay.
And this is an interesting story. Well, you know GSA and office space.
Yep. Government Services Administration.
And they're looking around, and there's not much. And they've got a bid or two, and I'm saying that ain't going to work. I am in getting the loan done for this house and talking to the banker, Mark Westerholt. He says, Tim, there's a guy building a deal that might work. And he was building a 3-unit building that would be 1,000 square feet that had an overhead door and a front door right next to each other.
Nice.
And I go, oh.
That's perfect.
So I called Grace, the administrative officer down in Denver, and she says, let me check. Give me the guy's number. You can't talk to him.
Ah, right.
So I give her the information.
P.
Don't hear anything. And then I get a fax to go pick up at the game department. Because remember,
You don't have an office.
I don't have an office. You're looking at my office right here.
Right, this was it.
And here's this square floor plan. Put in your walls.
Nice.
And I cut it in half for the big door for the warehouse to put stuff in.
Yep.
And then took the other one and cut it in half. One was for my office, one was for the evidence room.
So your first job as agent in Cody was to basically get your office set up.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing, no equipment, nothing. All right. And at the same time, Jim Klett is the agent in Lander.
Okay.
Longtime agent. I go see him. He's transferring to Devil's Lake back home to help take care of parents, him and his wife.
I see.
And a new supervisor comes into Billings, Commodore Mann. So Jim Klett gives me the heads up that the old supervisor in Billings had a lot of equipment that he'd given to the Park Service to use.
I see.
So you'd start digging through the inventory and find out there's 2 horse trailers, there's tents, pack gear, all sitting up at the park that's still under our inventory. So I ended up going up there and getting all this equipment. And one of them a little bumper pole 4-horse trailer.
Okay.
The deal goes through and I get that office. No money for furniture. You know, Terry Gross and that bunch. Yeah, I'm not spending money on you.
Right.
Leo Suazo was the agent down in Denver. I don't know if you met Leo.
I know Leo.
Okay, what is Leo? I mean, you know, he's a Pawn Star, right? Knows everybody.
That's true.
Come on down, Tim. We'll go over to the Federal Center. I take this 4-horse trailer down there and go over to the used GSA huge place and haul furniture back. And
Perfect.
that's how I ended up with this office. So now, there wasn't a lot going on here outside the park with wolves.
Right.
All the fish and wildlife guys were up in Helena. Ed Bangs and Joe Fontaine. And the Park Service was the one dealing with the wolves.
And they were initially released inside the national park.
Yeah.
So
there wasn't really like, yeah, the wolves will stay in the park.
No,
right?
no, right. But nobody really expected them to do as well as they did so quickly.
Yeah, and what are we going to do when they're outside the park? Because the Park Service had no authority outside the park.
And they were listed so that, if I remember, you correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the reintroduced wolves, if they did leave the park, they were essentially listed as threatened species under the Endangered Species Act.
Right.
So if they do leave the park, they are automatically still protected.
They're still protected,
Yeah.
but the 10J rule gave you more flexibility about what you did with them.
Right. They could be killed, for example, if they preyed on domestic livestock and things like that.
In that first reintroduction, I think was 14 wolves in Yellowstone and then 15 in Idaho. Well, they just dumped them out in the wilderness. In January of 95, they went up to Alberta and caught the wolves and brought them back to Yellowstone, and they had pins they put them in and fed them to try and get them to locate there. So when they opened the doors, they sort of kind of stay was the idea.
Right. So now you've got your office set up, and that illustrates an interesting point in that Fish and Wildlife Services, Fish and Wildlife Service special agents and wildlife inspectors too, all employees. Fish and Wildlife Service always seems to have they're just barely hanging on budget wise, and supervisors tend to be very chintzy with money. And it makes all of us so resourceful. I can't tell you how many times I sourced equipment from other agencies or scrounged equipment here and there, and everybody did it. And you're kind of the master class, and you set up a whole office.
Oh, yeah. And the Forest Service helped me a lot with that part of it, particularly getting the horse program going here.
Right. So now you've got your office set up. 1995, the wolves are released, and there is a particular wolf among that original group, a wolf number 10.
Yes.
And I know wolf number 10 became a big part of your life real quick. How did wolf number 10 come into your life as a special agent with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service?
Well, 10 was the Rose Creek pack, as I remember, with number 9. Mm-hmm. 9 was a adult female that had a daughter that they didn't call number 7. 10 was not with her. He came from somewhere else, but they were put together because they were breeding age. Mm-hmm. And it became apparent to the guys watching that they kind of liked each other. That time of year, that January to March, is the breeding season. They're pairing up, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So they ended up opening the gate, whatever, the end of March. And I think there were some initial problems with gates because that's where all the people came in. I think they ended up sort of taking down sides. So 10 left immediately. Mm. If you read some of this stuff about him, he was at the alpha of wolves.
Right.
So they're turned loose in April, or in March, the end of March. And the Park Service is, flying regularly because they all have radio collars with a particular frequency. And they weren't staying put.
Well, as wolves would do, right?
Yeah.
The first thing they're going to do is explore and try to figure out what territory they want and what's good territory.
Yeah. And if we had a map of Yellowstone, we could show that they're up on that northern sort of end of Yellowstone is where these pens are at, sort of towards Lamar Valley in that area. And they kept going north and up and back and forth. And finally in April, somewhere around the middle of April, they're kind of getting further that way. And they end up over by Mount Maurice outside of Red Lodge.
Mm. Red Lodge, Montana?
Yes, yeah. Which is just across the border from Wyoming.
Okay. And outside the national park?
Yes, by quite a bit.
Okay.
Over the Beartooth Mountains, high country.
Okay.
So, believe it's April 24th. They're flying. And they get a mortality signal from 10's collar. And for the people listening or watching, when the collar doesn't move for 5 hours, whatever that time period is, the beat rate increases.
I see.
And it starts going beep, 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 beep. When they're moving, it's beep, beep, beep.
I see.
Beep, 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 beep is not a good thing.
Not a good sign. Okay.
And so, panic sets in. So the 911 call goes out, and Joe Fontaine, who's part of the wolf reintroduction program for U.S. Fish and Wildlife, drives down from Helena.
Okay.
And he has a receiver and antenna to be able to track on the ground.
Got it.
And you use directional to figure out where is this collar at.
And Joe's a biologist, not an agent.
Right.
Yeah.
because I don't have any of this equipment yet.
Right.
Later on, I will.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty quick later on,
Okay.
like pretty quickly. So he comes down, and then the first thing I do is we go over to Red Lodge and meet with the sheriff of Carbon County,
Okay.
who's Sheriff Al McGill, who is if you want a caricature of a sheriff, Al McGill's that. It's a big old guy with a big old cowboy hat and just a professional and a gentleman. Okay.
So just curious, he's a Western small county sheriff.
Yes.
But you've already said he's professional, so I think I know the answer, but what's his attitude toward the federal government and wolves and all of that?
Well, what your personal feelings are different from how you conduct yourself professionally.
Right. If you're a professional.
If you're a professional. And,
Right.
and I didn't get into discussions about that.
Okay, good.
But he was just a good professional. And so I said, this is where we're going. It's over at Bear Creek. Bear Creek is a little creek that runs up towards Mount Maurice, whatever it is. So you go up this gravel road, and not that far. I don't know if it's 100 yards, 200 yards, and it's kind of a little small canyon, and it's bouncing around, and he can't get a direction, so he takes the antenna off to where you just have the end of it, and he still can't get. And we're standing on the road looking around, and I look, and the creek is flowing under the road there.
Mm.
So I walked over to the creek, and I'm on top of this culvert, and I took my boot and I drew an X there.
Okay.
And went and get back and got my hip boots.
Okay.
And sure enough, in the culvert was the collar.
No kidding. Okay, so you guys were zeroing in not on the wolf body, but the removed collar.
Yeah, the collar. I says, that's coming. I knew exactly what had happened.
Absolutely.
Something's been thrown in the culvert. The wolf did not remove the collar.
Right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
We have a dead wolf somewhere.
So the collar's been obviously handled by a human being.
Yes, obviously something bad's happened.
Okay. Now
sometime in the last 3 days.
Right.
Well, now it's like, okay, now's when the work starts.
You bet. I
Okay.
got to find this thing.
So we're all standing around there talking, and coming down from around the corner, I see this yellow Jeep Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
We're now going full circle.
Okay.
I look at that. Come on. Stops. This guy gets out, and I go, Dusty. He goes, Tim. I said, what are you doing here? Oh, I live here now. He's got on his baca land and cattle cap.
Mm.
He is from La Cueva, New Mexico.
What? You ran into somebody outside Red Lodge, Montana, that you knew in small town New Mexico.
Yeah. I knew Dusty from back then. And he's Dusty, if I could describe him, kind of a hippie.
Okay.
Kind of an old hippie. Okay.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay.
So I make a mental note of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he lives there.
Right, of course.
If you go around the corner, there's a couple little old, sort of like cabin house, old, just a couple.
Yeah. And he lives in one of those.
Yeah, he lives in one of those by himself.
Okay. So you have a friendly person in the area who might be a good witness.
Well, I don't know friendly, but I know him.
Okay.
We'll see. We weren't buddies, but I knew of him,
I got it. Okay.
I may have chased him a little bit when he was down in New Mexico.
All right.
So, So that's the end of the story of that day. There's a few other things. So,
but you didn't find the wolf that day?
No, the wolf's not there.
Okay.
So this is around the 27th of April. And it is now officially hit the news.
Okay. A wolf out of Yellowstone.
It's number 10 is presumed dead.
Okay.
By the hand of man.
Oh, okay. So that's even out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's all come out.
Okay.
And the interest from the public nationally is just crazy.
Yeah.
And what starts happening is rewards start getting offered.
Mm-hmm.
And before it was said and done, it was something like $12,000 or $13,000 in rewards back in '94.
And that it's worth noting that the reintroduction, we'll talk to other people during this season about why wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone, but there was a biological reason for it, but it was very popular with the American public, the whole idea of it, generally speaking, across the country, it was very popular.
Yeah.
So wolf dying among the first that were released would be a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's another portion that are cheering it.
Of course.
Yeah. Let's get the rest of them.
So
right?
A lot of the Western people were not fans of it.
Yeah. And so, back to Cody I go, and, over the course of about 2 weeks or so, things are exploding nationally. And the reward stuff, although it's good in some ways, I'm not a fan of them.
Really?
No, not initially. Maybe down the road. But the problem when you get rewards is you get a lot of false information.
Yeah. Okay.
Or a lot of rumor stuff.
Yeah. People hoping that they get it right.
Yeah. And if you're a one-man show, trying to look into all those really saps your time.
Sure.
If people watch, Investigation Discovery Channel and see what happens when these guys are working on murders and things like that, and rewards and all the tips they get and how crazy it can get, that they have to go through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got enough information a time or two where I could have got a search warrant.
Wow.
But it didn't smell right.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't touching it.
Okay.
I'm not going to overreact.
Right.
And there was pressure coming down from above.
I'm sure.
Right. But my supervisor there in Billings at the time, Commodore Mann, he was real good. It just stopped there. It never came any further.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to let it. I wasn't going to be pushed into doing something that didn't feel right.
Right.
But the Dusty Steinmeisel connection and where he lived told me there's a good chance that somehow he knows something.
Interesting.
Or at worst, he's involved.
Right.
And so I had gone back to do an interview with him, and Leo Suazo had come up to help do some stuff up here, and we sat down and talked to him. And we're getting sort of little bits and pieces, but could tell there was something there.
Okay.
But he didn't come clean. And me and Leo even talked afterwards that, I'm going to come back and do this again. And subsequently, I did get Dusty to give a partial confession.
No kidding. A confession.
Yes. Yeah, that the individual that had killed the wolf was this Chad McKittrick from Red Lodge.
And how did Dusty know this? Was he in?
The full story doesn't come out till a little later, but that somehow he was with Chad up there helping him get unstuck or something when maybe Chad shot this wolf.
Okay. So this is interesting too, because Fish and Wildlife Service agents are pretty well trained on how to interview people. Mm-hmm. And we do it in a very particular way, usually with two agents present.
Yeah.
And I won't go into a lot of detail on how we do it, but there are techniques we use that Fish and Wildlife agents are very successful at uncovering the truth.
Yeah.
So you did a good job, obviously, because you knew something was wrong on that first interview. You go back again for the second, and now you get this confession.
Yeah, and I didn't want to push it and have him just quit talking to me.
Absolutely.
Because I did have a connection to him.
Yeah.
And was able to get enough information to get a search warrant for Chad's place in Red Lodge.
Okay.
And we ultimately served that search warrant and recovered a rifle
Okay.
and the wolf skin with the head attached.
Oh,
So the carcass wasn't there, but the head was in the skin.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And they were able to identify that as wolf 10 because there was a pit tag.
Ah,
Pit tags are if people think about with their pets, with
Yeah.
their dogs, if that'll go and put a little tag underneath their skin on their back so you can identify your dog later. Somebody steals it or something like that. Well,
Right.
when they skinned it, the wolf tag was still attached to the hide
No
underneath there.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so,
So it's wolf 10. No
yeah,
question.
no question. Yeah.
No possible alibi that this came from somewhere else where it might have been legal. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And Chad,
Yeah. What was Chad like? You described
Chad,
Dusty. What's Chad?
Chad McKittrick was kind of the black sheep of his family. Everything I heard about the McKittrick family, it was a solid family from that area. I think the dad had worked for the Forest Service a long time, and we're good folks. But Chad not doing well in that area.
I see. Okay.
We subsequently went to the U.S. Attorney now, not in Wyoming, but in Montana,
Okay.
and ended up charging him with the violation.
Now, what violation are you charging him with?
Well, the Endangered Species Act. And you can get him also on the Lacey Act misdemeanor for transportation.
Transporting.
Yeah, so those are the two different counts.
But what was your evidence that he's got the wolf, he's in possession of it.
Yeah.
What evidence did you have that he killed it?
Well, the wolf was killed up Bear Creek, and Dusty was the witness that Chad killed it.
Got it. And did you ever find the kill site?
Okay, that's another story on that.
Am I
Okay.
jumping too far ahead?
No, this all is compressed, so it's hard to, what day did it all happen? So, Paul Ranchow is the manager of Sunlight Ranch. Sunlight Ranch is a huge ranch here. It's in Wyoming and into Montana. And it's owned by Sinclair Oil, Earl Holding, who was one of the big landowners.
Okay.
I think he's got he's passed away 400 and some thousand acres of private land in Wyoming and Montana. Huge landowner.
That's a lot.
Paul Ranchow's, one of his hands is up Bear Creek because they own private land up above there. That's private land.
Okay.
And they run a lot of cattle. And he smells something and finds a carcass that's bigger than a coyote.
And not a cow.
And not a cow, and doesn't think it's really a dog,
Right.
So he comes and tells Paul. So Paul calls Al McGill, the sheriff from Red Lodge.
Right.
And Al says, call Tim Eicher.
Got it.
So these things and relationships connect.
Very important. Relationships in law enforcement, especially in rural areas, are super important.
Yeah, so I drive up to Clark, is where Paul was living. He's the ranch manager there. They got huge agricultural fields. They make hay and stuff, and then the cattle operation on all that. I go in and I meet Paul, and he decides, yep, you bet, and I'll have him go up and show you where this is at. So off I go with this guy, and we go up Bear Creek, and sure enough, here's obviously Wolf's 10. There's orange baling twine where they hung it up, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, it hung it up to clean it.
And all that.
Or skin it, yeah.
Needless to say, after finding this, on the way out, I knocked on Dusty's door
Nice.
because he said he didn't know what all Chad did with it when he left.
Interesting. Okay.
And now Dusty finally confesses the rest of the story.
Awesome. Good decision.
Yeah.
Good decision.
Because he was there when that happened.
Okay. So what was the rest of the story as Dusty told you?
Well, the story was, they went up, Chad had gotten stuck and he got up to get him out the next day.
He got his truck stuck up.
Yeah. And so while they're there, Wolf 10 appears up on the ridge and Chad says, "There's a wolf. I'm going to shoot him." Dusty says, "Well, you're sure it's a wolf? Maybe it's a dog. Like, if it's a dog, maybe you won't shoot it. Because if it's a wolf, obviously, you're gonna shoot it." And he shoots it. And they drag it down, and they haul it over in the bushes and hang it up and skin it. And Chad takes it home, and the ear tags... They put ear tags in them, too. Those are taken off and put in an empty beer can and squished. And,
okay.
Now, get rid of them.
Now, does Dusty know that it would be illegal to kill a wolf outside the park?
Oh, yeah.
He did.
He knows that this is not a good thing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's well out. Everybody knows they're protected. It's big news.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not, they all know.
All right. So, and presumably Chad knew that too.
Mm-hmm.
I want to back up just a tiny bit. When you finally find the carcass and you realize this got to be a wolf. And the thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand is if you are out in the wild and you see a wolf and you know what a coyote looks like and you know what a German Shepherd looks like,
mm-hmm.
you know instantly you are not looking at anything other than a wolf. Particularly the wolves in Yellowstone, mm-hmm. They're big. The first time I ever saw one, there's just no question what you're looking at.
Right.
Yeah. So when you find this carcass, this is basically for your bread and butter. This is a murder scene,
mm-hmm.
right? And how do you handle that crime scene? Like a lot of my listeners are true crime fans. So like when you're looking at that, what kind of evidence are you hoping you might find in that situation?
Sometimes people will drop things.
Yeah.
Anything that's there that's not supposed to be there naturally
mm-hmm.
is something you'd collect.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, there wasn't. There was just the carcass with the orange baling twine. Now, I did collect some things at the kill site.
Okay.
Because when I went back with Dusty, and I said, "Show me where the wolf was standing."
Right.
I went up there and looked around, and I actually found blood.
Nice.
But this has been long, so it's black, dried, pooled blood where it's... And I collected it. But it was degraded to where they couldn't get DNA or anything from that.
Got it. And we have a forensics lab that's devoted to wildlife forensics in Ashland, Oregon. So,
mm-hmm. And see, that was the infancy, and
that was new then.
Yeah, and they were wanting to increase their samples because you needed to have all these samples to look at DNA to show the differentiation.
Right.
And so they were still in the infant stages of being able to tell individual wolves apart.
Got it.
Not because they didn't understand the technology, but they did not have a sort of library
you need
DNA stuff.
You need a baseline.
Yes.
Yeah, baseline.
And so they were always wanting us to send samples in, whether it's grizzly bears, wolves, those kinds of things, elk and deer, because they were developing, this sort of library for everything.
Got it. What about bullet? Did you find a bullet or anything?
No, I had metal detectors, but
no bullet. Probably went right through.
Yes, It was a 7 mag.
Probably definitely went right through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, so great. So now you've got a confession out of Dusty about what actually happened.
Yes.
What do you do next after that?
Well, then it's the U.S. attorney there in Billings files charges.
Against Chad McKittrick?
Yes. And it's scheduled for a trial in October of 95. So this would be the end of May and then to October of 95 is the interim.
And so, just so listeners understand, he's going to be charged now with take of a threatened or endangered species.
Right. And then there's the transportation.
And transportation, which is a Lacey Act charge.
Right.
Okay.
These aren't felonies.
Okay.
Okay.
Class A misdemeanor for ESA violation.
Right. Yeah, you would.
Actually,
your background's a little more with the legal side of it.
Yeah, and actually, for a threatened species, it's only a Class B misdemeanor. So,
yeah.
If the wolves were designated as threatened, but still important case, penalties pretty good, and this is like first case of a Yellowstone wolf being poached outside the park. So all eyes are on this.
And the important thing of this to wolf recovery would be that, somebody shot the first guy that ever killed one illegally got caught.
Exactly. Huge deterrent.
The deterrence part of it.
Yeah.
Because of the deterrence is the important part. The important part isn't catching people.
Mm-hmm.
Because this has been brought up before, and you can talk to wildlife agents and you could ask them this question. And you could ask me there, Tim, if you caught everybody that killed a wolf and they killed all the wolves, did you do your job?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is no.
Exactly.
Because the mission was to get the wolves reintroduced and get them recovered to where they could be a self-sustaining population.
Right.
So that means part of your job is talking to the public. Not necessarily convincing them that it is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. That's up to them.
But explain the law to them, and that you're there to help them if there's problems, if you have livestock damage, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is one of the, actually, I think, coolest things about law enforcement in the United States. And I'm gonna just go off on a little side here for a second. In the United States, law enforcement officers enforce the law that's on the books. And who makes the law? Representatives who we elect, right?
Yes.
And if we decide as people that we want the law changed, the law enforcement officers will enforce the law as it's written, right? Mm-hmm. And so, classic examples of marijuana, right? 20 years ago in Los Angeles, if you got caught with a small amount of marijuana, you got arrested. Today, you do not, because it's not illegal anymore. So, this is an excellent example of what it means to be a professional law enforcement officer. You are not taking your personal beliefs to the office. You are not falling victim to the passionate cries of people who either hate wolves or love wolves.
Yeah.
Your job is to enforce the Endangered Species Act, and through that, help facilitate the national policy to reintroduce wolves. And that's exactly what you're doing. And you're so right. It's to deter people from killing.
Right.
That is the most important mission.
Yeah, that was real important in that one.
Yeah.
And, one of the best cases I had was an electrocution case here with Pacific Corps, because the end result is all these power lines got fixed.
Yeah, electrocution of a bird, right?
Yeah.
Probably an eagle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that has very, very positive impacts down the road for the species in general.
Yep.
Not saving an animal, but saving the species. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Chad's charged now.
Yeah.
You guys are committed. You're moving forward. You're holding people accountable. You're setting that deterrent. What happens next?
We're just putting the case together. And then the July 4th parade happens up in Red Lodge. And I get a call that Chad McKittrick rode in the July 4th parade.
Oh, no.
With a T-shirt.
Oh, no.
That says the Wolf Reintroduction Project, whatever, yada, yada, yada. In other words, he's bragging about it. And I says, T-shirt.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah. He says, there's a bar there that's selling them.
Oh, boy.
So I drive up there and waltz into the bar and play the old redneck. And can I buy one of them T-shirts? Sure enough. So I bought a T-shirt.
You have it right.
Just for you, Ed the Fed. And we'll see if the camera can get it.
Oh, my gosh. Northern Rockies Wolf Reduction Project, 2005. $13 million. Oh my
The
gosh.
$13 million is reference to what the wolf reintroduction is going to cost.
It's going to cost.
And I don't know if the camera can see it, but you'll see
Yeah.
the little radio collar.
Yep.
You'll see his skin and knife.
Yep.
And then here's his 7mm mag cartridge.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So just flaunting their approval of basically an illegal act.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, Chad's not getting real good advice from his buddies.
Not at all.
I went and talked to the buddy who was the entrepreneur that got the T-shirts designed and ordered them.
Okay. Okay.
They're all patting him on the back in the bar and ha ha ha, but there's not the ones that are at risk. Chad is legally.
Exactly. And he's been charged by the U.S. Attorney in Montana.
Yeah.
Not Department of Justice back in Washington, D.C.
No.
But the local U.S. Attorney.
Yeah, we're handling it here. Yeah.
So that says something too. It's not that it's some out-of-town prosecutor coming in. It's a Montana prosecutor.
No.
Yeah.
So that T-shirt helps later on at trial.
Really? Okay. Oh, this will be good.
Because I haul it in to Ed, God, what's his last name? He was a cool guy from West Virginia or something.
Mm.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Prosecutor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And show it to him. He goes, oh, give that to me. So he's got it in his briefcase. But it cannot be introduced at trial in the government's case in chief.
Mm-hmm. You're going to impeach with it, aren't you?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Chad ends up taking the stand.
Oh, boy.
And talk, it's not, I don't mind wolves, yada, yada. And I didn't think it was a wolf. I thought it was a dog, which is contrary to what Dusty said. Chad said it was a wolf, and Dusty's trying to convince him it's a dog so he won't shoot it, right?
Right.
And so then Ed is able to ask him, well, were you in the July 4th parade?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see him start to, and were you wearing it, And so then he drags the T-shirt out. And it goes to the jury, and they're looking at it and just shaking their heads like, are you real? So.
Interesting. That's a beautiful way to use that.
Yeah, guilty is charged.
Okay, so he goes to trial.
Mm-hmm.
Chad actually testifies and tries to present it as if he didn't know he was shooting a wolf.
Right.
Which is an intent issue that we need to talk about a little bit before we move on. But and then he's convicted. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to recognize. We just talked a little bit about how this was charged by an assistant U.S. attorney in Montana, not some outsider who came in.
Yeah.
But the jury is made up of people from that area.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot. I mean, you have to assume some of those people on the jury probably didn't agree with wolf reintroduction, but they saw that Chad McKittrick had violated the law, and it takes 100%. It's not a majority of jurors. Every single juror has to vote guilty to get a guilty conviction. So he's convicted after a jury trial.
Yes.
That's significant.
Yeah.
And now, with regard to the Endangered Species Act, there comes up a question sometimes, and this case ended up becoming very, very important for Endangered Species Act criminal law. And the question is, does it matter if the shooter knows the identity of the animal, of the species? And if I remember correctly, at the McKittrick trial, there was a jury instruction that actually told the jury that as long as the shooter, McKittrick, knew he was shooting an animal, if it turned out to be an endangered or threatened animal, he was guilty.
Right.
And that becomes important, and this is what we'll talk about, I assume, next. But it actually goes back, that's kind of pretty established hunting law among all 50 states, as far as I know.
Yes.
In that, as a hunter, you have a responsibility to know what you're shooting.
Right.
And so if you have a license to kill a bull elk and you shoot a female elk, even if you thought you were shooting a male elk, you're probably guilty because you're supposed, before you launch a bullet, you need to know what you're shooting at.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
you shoot a rooster pheasant, okay. You shoot a hen pheasant, not okay.
Not okay.
Unless it's a special deal.
Yeah, unless even if you say, I thought it was.
Right.
So, this is what gets me about what the next steps in what happens with McKittrick's case, because it's pretty well established. You don't launch a bullet unless you know what you're shooting at.
Right.
So, so that jury instruction goes out to the jury, and that's part of what they base their conviction on, is that that doesn't matter as long as he knew he was shooting an animal. But even with that, there's evidence presented at trial that he did know it was a wolf.
Yes. Dusty.
So, yeah, Dusty, and the T-shirt and all of that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so good for you. You got a conviction. You've got your deterrence moving forward. What happens next?
Well, not a lot. That was on appeal for a while, maybe 3 years. I don't know. You might know how it took a while, because this whole intent thing took a while.
Yeah.
And that appeal did affect in Wyoming how we could handle wolf and grizzly bear things.
Exactly. Because
the environmental group out of Washington, out of DOJ, came out with some new guidelines.
Yes.
And that really impacted how we could prosecute wolves. Mm-hmm. Because in the case of grizzly bears, it impacted us too, but the state would still prosecute. Wolves, the state they weren't protected.
I see.
And they had directions not to help us.
Interesting.
My help on wolf investigations came from the Forest Service and Wildlife Services.
But not the state.
No.
And the reason for that is because
of the politics.
Politics of it.
Oh, the legislature, when wolves were coming, went nuts. The only thing that saved it was the Governor Jim Geringer with Wyoming. He was conservative, but they were passing laws like, if a wolf kills an elk, Bruce Babbitt is guilty of poaching.
Bruce Babbitt was the Secretary of Interior. Interior at the time.
And Governor Geringer vetoed one or two of these fruitcake bills, because the guys they went off the deep end with some of the stuff they were doing.
That's fruitcake.
And there was real good leadership on his part, and not that he was a fan of the wolf reintroduction, but there comes a point where you have to be professional.
Yeah, realistic too.
Realistic, yeah. And so it impacted what we could charge them with wolves,
right?
Because if they said, I thought it was a dog, or I thought it was a coyote, the only thing left was a $500 civil penalty. We could
no criminal.
Grizzly bears, the same thing.
Yeah, because
we had grizzly bears that were taken and mistaken for black bear. And so those, if we were doing it, it was $500. If the state did it, then the penalties would be more significant.
And that was because grizzly bears were protected by the state of Wyoming. Under state law.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we are at this point where we are talking about something that is known among the Fish and Wildlife Service, Office of Law Enforcement, the agents, as the McKittrick Memo. So what happened is that Tim Eicher got a great conviction against McKittrick. McKittrick appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals, I don't know what it would have been, 10th Circuit. Ninth Circuit?
Yeah, it was Montana.
Oh, okay.
Wyoming would have been 10th, but this
Montana's 9th.
He was killed in Montana, yeah.
So, and one of the things he appealed on was that jury instruction that said he didn't matter if he knew the identity of the animal he shot at, as long as it turned out to be a wolf. And the reason I'm giving this background, Tim, is because Special Agent Marie Palladini and we wrote a law review article about this appellate case. So the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals looked at prior case law and the legislative history of the Endangered Species Act, and they concluded, no, the jury instruction was correct. You lose. Your conviction stands. McKittrick then appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, claiming a number of issues, but that being one of them. And for whatever reason, the U.S. Supreme Court did not hear the case. And before it could hear the case, actually, is what happened. The U.S. Solicitor's Office just decided we will no longer ask for that jury instruction. So what that meant was the Supreme Court appeal was moot because it didn't matter. Because if the government's not going to pursue the jury instruction, then it doesn't matter anymore. And they issued this memo that said U.S. prosecutors are not to pursue this jury instruction in the future. So interestingly, because the U.S. Supreme Court didn't consider it, McKittrick's conviction stood. But in the future, we would not pursue that jury instruction. And what that meant was that it wasn't just limited to wolves. It was limited to any endangered species or threatened species. Grizzly bear, California condor, black-footed ferret, you name it. Whatever it's a green sea turtle. Any endangered species now, the government had to prove that the person that killed it or took it knew the identity of the species when they took it. And that is contrary to legislative intent. And it has been a detriment to proving cases after that. After the McKittrick case, I think you've already hinted. Your ability to prove cases on grizzly bear cases was affected, right?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
We were lucky with grizzly bears, though, because of the state. Yeah, they were.
But what about wolves after that? Did you work any other wolf cases after the McKittrick case?
Yeah, and
did the memo affect your ability to work those cases?
I think there was one or two where it was a mistaken identity, where it was a $500 civil penalty.
Couldn't go criminal.
Yeah.
So what it does is it adds this extra element to your investigation where now you have to go find evidence that they knew.
Right.
And that's going to be statements or literature that you can prove they read or whatever.
And generally the ones that were mistaken identity are pretty obvious because they call you.
Yeah, exactly.
They say, look, I thought this was a dog and I shot it.
Exactly. Oops.
And which is different from it's a wolf shooting it, cutting the collar off, I had a grizzly bear collar in Buffalo Bill Reservoir.
That's kind of an indicator that you did something wrong.
Excuse me, that was a wolf. Palisades in Idaho was a grizzly bear. The wolf one was in the lake there, and you could stand there on the shore and point it out there and go, well, the wolf didn't drown trying to swim across
Exactly. Destroying a collar is kind of an admission of guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if they were smart, they'd have destroyed them.
Yeah.
They didn't.
So, explain that a little bit. As a law enforcement officer, if somebody calls you and comes forward and says, hey, I'm calling in the local agent. I was out hunting. I think I killed a grizzly bear. I thought I was shooting at a black bear, but it was a cinnamon black bear. And when I got up there, it's got the hump. I think it's a grizzly. What's your attitude as a law enforcement officer in terms of how you approach that case versus the guy who walks away from the carcass, tries to conceal the fact that he killed a grizzly bear, even if accidentally?
I don't approach him any differently.
Okay.
In other words, I do a thorough investigation.
Right.
And then the U.S. attorney decides how to go forward.
How to charge.
My job, and any investigator's job, is to do as professional a job as they can do, whatever the crime, and be able to provide, whether it's the county attorney, the U.S. attorney, whoever, with good facts that then they're able to make decisions on how to go forward with the case.
Right. You ever make recommendations to a U.S. attorney? Like,
if we sit down and they ask, yes.
Okay. Right.
Yes. Says, Tim, how do you feel about this?
You'll give them your opinion.
Yeah, I'll give them my opinion.
Tell me a little bit about, what are your thoughts now on, this case was a big deal for Endangered Species Act law and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and all work going forward. How does it feel to have been involved in a case like that had such long-lasting impact?
Well, it's a great feeling, especially at the time.
It's also a little weird, I assume. Right?
Yeah, that the first guy that pulled this, we got him caught.
Got him caught.
There were some very interesting connections clear back to New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
That, so it was a really neat case, and I think it helped them that first year or two get sort of a population started. Because now that they're established in Yellowstone, wolves are here.
Yeah.
Yellowstone is a puppy factory. So what goes on out here, there's still a puppy factory up there.
Mm-hmm.
And
interesting.
The wolves are here. And I did a lot of backcountry work after that, and been into the thoroughfare. And there's something, to me, sleeping under the stars at night and hearing a wolf howl up in Yellowstone. That added to the experience.
I agree with you on that 100%. Mm-hmm. And, I'm sure you're aware, that there's been documented very positive impacts on
mm-hmm.
the park's ecosystem from the reintroduction of wolves. Do you hunt? Are you also a hunter?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? There's a lot of hunters that claim that wolves, and I'm not asking for a controversial decision, or opinion, but just based on your experience being out hunting deer and elk, do you feel that wolves have had a negative impact on deer and elk populations? You're also a deer biologist.
Right. Well, see, the whole thing about what's a negative
exactly
is how are you going to define what negative means?
Right.
I've had many discussions with people over the years here.
I'll bet.
I've been here over 30 years.
I'll bet you.
My grandkids are all born here in Wyoming. My kids all graduated from high school here. Got a lot of friends.
Right.
One question I asked a friend of mine who was a big time hunter who didn't like wolves, and I says, okay, let's put it this way. Pretend, and he was a big elk hunter.
Yeah.
We figured out in this elk herd, there's 1,000 extra elk that we're going to kill.
It for hunting.
Right. No.
Oh.
That we've accounted for all of other forms of mortality.
I got it. Okay.
But wolves and people. So we got 1,000 left, and we're going to split them up.
Yeah.
The wolves get this many, and the hunters get this many. What percentage works for you? 50-50, 70-30? And he said, Tim, I want all of them. And he hung his head. But that was his attitude. Yeah. So I've had other hunters, not a lot, but they start talking about, oh, man, you see them wolves, they were killing that elk and they were having fun. Okay. And I said, damn right, sure looked like they were having fun. I says, the next thing they're going to be doing is taking pictures of each other and videos and cutting that damn elk's head off and hauling it back to their den to hang on the wall.
Nice.
And they shut up.
Exactly.
I'm a hunter.
Yeah.
So they don't think,
Mm-hmm.
And the controversy over elk is really about who gets to do the killing.
Exactly.
You can't tell me when I kill an elk, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And when the wolf kills an elk, it's bad.
Right.
Now,
right.
That doesn't work.
Yeah, I've looked at this issue too, and from what I can tell, looking at state harvest records of deer and elk, the presence of wolves has not decreased opportunities for hunters at all. Success rates.
It's really complex here.
It is complex
in Wyoming right now. They have a feed ground problem.
What's a feed ground problem?
Elk feed grounds.
Oh, elk feed grounds.
And the Jackson Hole.
Yeah.
Along in there's a bunch of elk feed grounds.
Yep.
Those feed grounds are put in for one of three reasons. One was starvation. Two was conflict with private land, livestock. And three would be kind of a combination of those. They now have CWD at a couple of them.
Chronic wasting disease, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a whole internal debate within the state of Wyoming and the game department and all these stakeholders about the free feed ground problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting there as the elk refuge.
Yep.
All
The
right.
National Elk Refuge just above Jackson Hole.
Yeah, and what to do with it, and because that's not a state entity, that's a federal entity.
Right.
And the state feed grounds, many of them are on federal land,
Right.
Forest Service land. So this is a real turmoil here about what to do. Plus, in Wyoming, many elk herds are over objective.
What does that mean?
There'd be a herd objective for a particular herd, the maximum numbers,
I see.
and they are over that objective.
So there's too many.
Too many, and they're conflicting with private landowners who get elk damage and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my own opinion is now, does the ranching industry livestock like wolves? No, they don't.
Mm.
And there's been some stuff happen here with some other things that would be a whole nother subject.
Another episode.
But I contend that if you know the red button, the easy button, if you push the easy button, you ever seen that commercial, the easy button?
Yeah, the big red button.
The big red button. That you could bring every one of these livestock people in here and give them 2 red buttons. You say you only get to push one. One gets rid of all the elk. One gets rid of all the wolves. The only question they'd ask you, will anybody know what button I pushed? No. Every single one of them would slam the elk button.
Seriously?
Yeah, those conflicts are that bad right now.
Interesting.
Yeah, because disease comes with it too.
Sure.
Brucellosis.
Yeah. Brucellosis.
Okay, so it's just
So yeah,
what the wolves' impact is really negligible compared to the conflicts with elk.
Interesting. Yeah, brucellosis is a disease that can spread from wild ungulates to domestic cows and causes problems.
Yeah.
Okay, that is I think that's a place I want to wrap up, honestly, Tim. I did want to ask you, though, I did have a question written down here. We're 31 years into wolf reintroduction. You were an agent here for a lot of that time, and you've lived here that whole time. Mm-hmm. What's your view on wolf reintroduction from what you've seen? Good, bad, successful, unsuccessful? You have any thoughts on it, or do you even want to say?
I answered that question when I was working, because when you're working, you got, one of the things that people do is they go up, well, I know you work for them, so you gotta toe the company line.
But they want to know what you really think.
Well, you gotta tell me what you really think, all right? And I would just tell them, look, as a Fish and Wildlife Service employee, I support the reintroduction of wolves.
Right.
I said also as a from a personal standpoint, I support the reintroduction of wolves. Mm-hmm. Period.
Tim Eicher, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been a real pleasure. I've always admired the Lawman, and I was looking forward to coming up here and talking to you about wolves. So thank you very much.
You bet, Ed. Thanks for coming up and enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good.
Safe travels.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Nature's Secret Service is written and produced by me, Ed Newcomer, and is co-produced by the DHTV team here at California State University, Dominguez Hills. Follow us on social media and connect with us online at naturesecretservice.com.